Okay.
There we go. Now we're going to share. All right. So we got started with this project in 23 as a response to uh, uh, funding challenges to public schools. And I think we've all seen the news. Ohio seems to be kind of the battleground state for school vouchers, where the Supreme Court in Ohio has ruled school vouchers paid with tax dollars to be unconstitutional. And then the other day there was a congressman from Ohio who submitted a bill who said that if you, as a school district, challenge the school voucher program, we will sue you for your lack of willful participation in the voucher program. Now, this is on top of how um, the Supreme Court in Ohio has already ruled these vouchers unconstitutional. So we've got a long way to go in terms of being able to figure out the school voucher issue. My background is trained as a foot and ankle surgeon, as a podiatrist. Spent 42 years in that world, and then watched my wife in the League of Women Voters, and I was really impressed with. She's state treasurer currently in Colorado, and I was just impressed with the voice that she had in her capacity with the league. Let's see. This is an important topic because I think, as the First Amendment, the Establishment Clause, which describes the separation of church and state, is fundamental to the construct of a democracy. And I believe that we should be here talking about this mostly because we still can. There are many places in the world where we couldn't have this kind of conversation. But also hold religious freedom, the conscience, the freedom of conscience of religious freedom as a driver within this movement, because what we're looking for is freedom of religion and freedom from religion. So this position is intended to protect those who want to worship in a church or a synagogue, and also those people who choose not to worship. We believe deeply in the Constitution and the rule of law. We believe and stand behind our position. Um, and part of what our role here is to create a conversation based on facts. Now, these facts need to be defended. When you hear J.D. Vance say that we're in a country that's founded on Christian principles, there are no facts to back that up. So, a portion of the intent of this position is to be able to argue this conversation in a way where the other side, quote unquote, has to defend their words with action, particularly if we ever end up in a court of law. So the position, the League of Women Voters of Colorado stands for the separation of church and state and religious freedom, founded upon the individual conscience, free of social or political influence by any state or religious body. These fundamental civil rights are threatened by religious nationalism. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution reads Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The League of Women Voters of Colorado believes that the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment are cornerstones of our democracy. So our position is essentially three sentences. The first paragraph is undisputably a paragraph that stands alone within the league. If you go to the league position warehouse, there's no reference to any sort of study or position related to religious freedom other than the Colorado position. The second paragraph in the position was used to create context for the first paragraph. Arguably, the second paragraph could be uh, covered by the individual civil rights uh, clause. that already exists in the U.S. League. The first paragraph, no. But we still stand by the fact that I think the second paragraph is supportive of the first paragraph. Excuse me. Um, Questions about the position at all? And I can't see the chat, so I'm gonna,
Well, I have one question.
yeah,
Um, the the league does have a position that says we support the Constitution without naming all the things in the Constitution that we support.
correct.
So I guess my question is this necessary?
Yes. Um, and if you parse out, Judy, the first paragraph, it took us a long time to get the courage to say the exact words that we believe these fundamental freedoms are under attack by religious nationalism. That's that paragraph stands by itself because religious nationalism is completely separate from individual civil rights that we'd find protected in the LWVOS position for the Constitution and protection of individual civil rights. I think the second paragraph, and once we've voted upon this in Colorado, I think the second paragraph is a bit redundant and probably not necessary, but the first paragraph stands alone. The challenge that we have is that once voted upon, we can't change the position. We would have to go back and revote on the position. So we're taking this for concurrence as it was voted upon in Colorado. Make sense?
Uh, yeah, I guess I'm coming from a state where legislation that falls under this rubric is not uncommon.
Can you repeat that?
And
You got garbled up a little bit.
oh, I'm sorry. I said I'm coming from a state where legislation
Uh-huh.
falling under this rubric is not at all uncommon. And we have been using the national position on support for the Constitution consistently to push back on bills like that are trying to put Bibles in our schools and put chaplains in our schools and all sorts of religious content into public sector um, elements.
Hmm. Yeah,
We're already doing this.
we felt this that, and we did have some league members, Judy, who felt that the position wasn't necessary. But the vast majority, it was a unanimous vote by all 19 leagues in Colorado to say that the position was valid and that we needed it. And I think it's that first paragraph. I'll grant you that second paragraph. We could probably eliminate it, but it's going to hang around for the vote.
Yeah, I'm not here to make trouble.
No,
I'm part of a subcommittee that has been formed in West Virginia from our state league to review the potential concurrences, and I'm here to learn about what you all have done.
fantastic. No, these sessions are great because they tease out all the subtleties, things that you don't remember about creating this position, but I get to hang out with some, this is an endearing term, old dogs who've been around the league for 50 years and they know all the subtleties. And last national meeting I went to, I was so impressed, of the discussions on the floor because it was pretty close to hand-to-hand combat. You got to be on your game, to be able to do this. So I look at this as partly a training session too to tease out these subtleties. This is Andrew Seidel. He's a constitutional lawyer, who's argued before the Supreme Court before, and I think his comments here are interesting. He currently works for Americans United against for separation of church and state.
The only thing that has truly served as an anchor of the United States of America is that we have been, and by the grace of God, we always will be a Christian nation.
Nope. America will never be a Christian nation because the moment America becomes a Christian nation, it will cease to be America. Sorry, JD. Wrong again.
I love this video because I think he really nails the fundamental truth that J.D. Vance can spout off that we are formed as a Christian nation. We do have Christian values, but we are not founded upon Christianity. Come on. Kathy, go ahead.
The only thing that is truly.
Hold up.
There you go.
I was just going to ask, it seems like this position is almost a statement of our opposition to the subverting of one religion. I mean, not just one, but any religion that's trying to manipulate the people. You know, if it right now it's Christianity, it could be something else.
Yeah.
I don't see that here in this country, but except from the far right Christian nationalist.
Mm-hmm. And I think they know it's time to strike. They have a president who's supportive. SCOTUS is supportive, and it's been years, but we've made it 250 years relying on this separation of church and state. And I think, as we get a few more slides in, we'll talk about what is Christian nationalism, and I think it helps to kind of sharpen the conversation.
And in Alabama, we've had a lot of our money from the public school system, funneled over to give to private schools.
Mm-hmm.
We've had right now there's bills every year pushing to get chaplains in schools, and they're saying, well, you can pick whoever you want, but the fact is it's one chaplain and not any qualifications. They don't have to be trained. And what's sad is it's not just getting one political party, it's getting both of our political parties are supporting that bill. And they don't see anything wrong with putting someone in the schools.
Well, here in Colorado, the governor is he's lame duck at this stage, and he chose to accept the school voucher money from the federal government, and Colorado is upset. We don't want it. We don't want to be a part of the voucher program. So it's going to be interesting to see. We mentioned earlier that Ohio has found them unconstitutional. So I don't think this is over yet. We just need to have I think a little change at the Supreme Court would have.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think that all of this really began in our country when Thomas Jefferson wrote the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. This was 2 years before the U.S. Constitution was written by James Madison. And Thomas Jefferson was so proud of the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom that he wanted this inscribed on his tombstone. The key points of it said that no one can be forced to attend a religious service. People cannot be harmed for their religious beliefs. People can fully express and defend their religious beliefs. And religious beliefs do not affect civil rights. The rights in the statute are natural and cannot be taken away. I think this really is the founding document for the conversation about religion in the U.S. Constitution. The challenge here, and this is a screenshot from the Heritage Foundation. You can learn a lot when you study the opposite team. If you look at the small print here, religious freedom is more than the freedom to worship at a synagogue, church, or mosque. It means people shouldn't have to go against their core values and beliefs in order to conform to culture or government. And in that statement is, I think, the movement by and orchestrated by the Heritage Foundation to move religion out of being sequestered into churches or mosques or synagogues into the public square. And so this is the expansion of religious liberty where it starts to become in conflict with the Establishment Clause. People are actively, like you're saying in Alabama, Kelly, people are actively pulling stones out of the wall of separation here because they see the opportunity to gain privilege. A lot of words coming up here, but religious fundamentalism is first and foremost a belief of fundamentalists is that the words of the Holy Book, whether it's the Quran, the Bible, are true and cannot be challenged by analysis or new evidence. Fundamentalism always has an in-group versus an out-group mentality. The fundamentalist in-group considers itself more moral. Karen Armstrong states that fundamentalism, there must be strict adherence to a theological doctrine. She states fundamentalism has no time for democracy, pluralism, religious tolerance, peacekeeping, free speech, or separation of church and state. They reject the biology of physics and the specific to the origins of life and insist, as fundamentalist Christians do, that the book of Genesis is scientifically sound. They wish to bring the sacred realm into politics to build a theocracy. I was reading an interesting book yesterday, and it started out it's a Robert Lifton, Losing Reality, but he's a psychiatrist, and in the book, the book opens up that I've always been concerned about someone who wants to change my reality. And I think this is partly what religious fundamentalism is. We have two different realities, and these are deeply entrenched in people. I mean, these are their ethos and their mythos that they believe to the core that religious fundamentalism is the most appropriate way to function in life. And Christian fundamentalism in the United States dream of a peaceful nation where there's no crime and everyone complies with moral codes, particularly established through the Bible. They reflect on an American myth of the good old days to promote the erasure of America's historical sins, which we as the League have wonderfully supported. The DEI is still a strong presence for the League. But in this case, slavery, Native American policies, pollution, oppression of women's rights. Those things didn't happen in a Christian fundamentalist world. Religious nationalism focuses on the internal aspects of society, such as politics, social life, and media. This political ideology and cultural framework attempts to conflate religious morality with patriotism and being a true American. Religious nationalism provides a moral and mental permission structure to attack the rule of law, and we have seen plenty of that going on in the past few months. Christian nationalism is a form of religious nationalism that's built upon the claim that America was founded as a Christian nation based upon Judeo-Christian principles, and most importantly, that we've strayed from that foundation and our godly roots. Christian nationalism employs the language of return to claim to be the true heirs of the American experiment and the American identity. Religious nationalism seeks to change our country in ways that may limit our individual civil rights. Religious nationalism seeks to alter the social contract that we as citizens of the U.S. have with our government in embedding religious doctrine into the government. Religious nationalism also seeks to obtain privilege from the government, including tax benefits and funding for religious causes such as religious schools. Now, this is what's been interesting in the Trump administration is how religious liberty has become weaponized and has been pushed very aggressively by these organizations, legal organizations that have names like the Liberty Institute and Freedom and Justice, and but I think Andrew Seidel, who we met before, describes it well. Many of us think that religious freedom is a gift to practice our religious faith as we wish. And naively, that's what I thought coming into this project. There's others who believe that religious freedom is a tool by which to gain privilege. And I want you to really focus on that word, privilege, is what's being sought after by religious nationalists. Andrew Seidel is a constitutional lawyer who studies and litigates contemporary religious freedom cases. Seidel has written 2 books. I'd recommend that you try these books. They're well written in a way that they're easily read, and they don't weight you down with all the gloom and doom that doom scrolling on your phone might. But Andrew Seidel says legal questions of religious freedom are not always simple. They can be complicated and more often emotionally fraught. But in their push to weaponize religious freedom, the Crusaders, and we'll define the Crusaders here, have misled and confounded many Americans about where to draw the lines for this founding American principle, which, as we know, is based in the First Amendment of the Constitution. Seidel describes these crusaders as it's a battle for privilege, for privilege for the few who believe in the correct version of the correct God, waged at the expense of those who do not. They're not conquering land, but it's a war of conquest. And at the most basic level, they're seeking privilege to codify supremacy. And this takes me back to what you said, Kathy, in Alabama about, the multiple fronts of religious liberty coming at the legal system. Christianity, I won't read through all this, but overall, one of our best coalition partners in the future will be Christian organizations. Christianity does not support Christian nationalism. Many organizations, in fact, you can see the list down below, Christians against Christian nationalism, etc. But in the future, once we gain a national position for religious nationalism, this will be one of our largest coalitions. So, what is religious nationalism? Well, I'll give you 6 examples here. There's now a office of faith just down the hall from the Oval Office. Critics say that these bodies prioritize a certain religion, as we mentioned before. If you're not familiar with the Seven Mountain Mandate and the New Apostolic Reformation, I'd recommend you take a little peek at those 2 organizations. NAR, or the New Apostolic Reformation, that's the flag that Mike Johnson hung outside of his office at the Capitol as Speaker of the House. Now, this is the 3rd most powerful man in the world hanging a religious flag outside of his office as Speaker of the House. These are 2 organizations that have created an opportunity for right-wing Christians to come together so that Catholics can work with Lutherans to come up with a way to gain privilege within this current system. There's been collaboration between Christian nationalists for the upcoming American 250 anniversary. Taxpayer money is going to go support Christian revival events in the upcoming America's 250th birthday. The Mercy Culture Church has created a threshing floor across from the U.S. Supreme Court for those who want to come and pray. The Christian rhetoric, I mean, in Colorado, we're so lucky to have Lauren Boebert, who is my representative, who articulated well the divide between Christian nationalism and people who believe in separation of church and state. And then Project 2025 has throughout it Christian slants in many different ways. Kathy, I'll share the slide deck with you here when we're done. Does that work for you? And in the office of faith, the Reverend Paula White is the spiritual advisor, and let me rephrase that, the Christian spiritual advisor to our president, bringing God's message to the Oval Office. We're probably all familiar with the first religious charter school in Oklahoma. I think it was pretty hilarious that when St. Isidore Academy applied to the Oklahoma Department of Education for this, the case ultimately was deadlocked at the Supreme Court. They applied, and the school board said that, well, we didn't think that there was any issue with them being a Christian school, but they filled out the application correctly. And so, there's a little wink, wink in passing this along. Interestingly, when the Supreme Court was deadlocked, when Amy Coney Barrett she withdrew from the case because of her relationship to um, um, its Notre Dame that was backing this project in Oklahoma. Uh, uh, the Attorney General Gentner Drummond was excited because he said that he was excited that he prevented radical Islamic schools from being set up in Oklahoma. Now, this case came to a draw, and I'm sure we're not done with it. But interestingly, a Jewish charter school recently came to the Oklahoma Charter School Board and applied for the ability to have a religious school funded by state dollars, and they were denied. So I think we get back to this one predominant religion being woven through the DNA of our country. Mahmoud v. Taylor is a great case that made its way to the Supreme Court. Mahmoud was a Muslim family, and they realized that they were uncomfortable with the teaching tools in school. And the primary one was this, and the sad puppy here stands for the book Pride Puppy. It was a book about two fellas married who took their puppy to a pride parade, and the puppy got lost. And that was the driver to take this group all the way to the Supreme Court to be able to opt out of teachings in public schools that they felt violated their religious freedom. Now, Mahmoud was smart enough that they realized that as a Muslim family, they're likely not going to prevail in the Supreme Court. So they got two other families, two of which were Christian families who agreed with the case. The challenge with this, though, and in essence, it's secession from public school. And we all know how secession works when we're trying to, united we thrive and divided we fall. The intent of the outcome of this case was to make teaching in public schools so difficult that the public schools just acquiesced in no more books about pride, no more books about gay couples. It's just too difficult to itemize the education of each individual kid in the classroom. This is another big one on the Johnson Amendment. The Johnson Amendment has a colorful history where Lyndon Johnson back in the 50s was accused of being a communist by the Hunt brothers, the big oil company guys. You see their trucks on the highway all the time. And the Hunt brothers were preaching from the pulpit that Johnson was a communist. And this is during the 50s with the Red Scare and McCarthyism. So Johnson had to come up with a good solution to discontinue any support of political candidates from the churches. And that's where the tax-free status came from for churches. Churches, and written in the IRS code, churches as 501c3 corporations, if they steered away from discussing politics and endorsing individual candidates, they would have tax-free status. Well, the National Religious Broadcasters sued the IRS 2 years ago because they felt that it wasn't enough to have tax-free status, but they wanted to be able to endorse political candidates. And if you get on the internet and look for examples that support endorsing political candidates, Texas is just rife with these cases. Billy Long, the commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service, acquiesced and said, yeah, that's just an old law. Don't worry about it. But there's also a group in Congress, about 10 Congress people who have brought up new legislation to endorse the original Johnson Amendment. Again, very important part of separation of church and state.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
It locked up on me I don't know. I saw Judy was still moving, so I'm not sure.
Oh, what did we miss? Did you miss everything?
Just on that previous slide, when you were talking about the Johnson Amendment,
Yeah, yeah.
I missed most of that.
Well, the Johnson Amendment from the late 50s was IRS code to to limit the conversation about endorsing individual political candidates from the pulpit. And that's kind of eroded. That's really the Johnson Amendment is a big part of the separation of church and state, particularly as it works through the IRS code. Do you have questions about that?
Well, I mean, I guess I've seen a lot of churches endorsing candidates. So is that
Yeah.
illegal or not illegal?
It was illegal and it still is illegal, but all of this has become so normalized, you know.
Yeah.
Um, a president who can make $4 billion while in office, that's normal, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just want to get back to that statement from Jay Lifton about it. I've always been amazed at people who want to change my reality. And the National Religious Broadcasters and the group that sued the IRS is just trying to change reality. So the most important thing about this position is the fact that many of the cases that we see that are touting religious freedom or the lack that the government is forcing the church to behave in a way that's incongruous with their principles. The challenge is that most of these cases are filed in federal court. So we have two cases here that are public Christian school. One, this fellow is just a rabble rouser in Pueblo. He founded a Christian school, but ultimately the building that he was in got condemned. So we got off the hook there. But he filed a case in federal court. And with a Colorado position, we can't advocate on behalf of the position. Same thing holds true. We have a case in Denver about universal preschool, where in Colorado you can have 4 hours of free preschool for 4-year-olds throughout the state. The Catholic Church signed on to the program, but now are suing the state of Colorado because they don't want to be required to have to hire someone who might be LGBTQ. So they want the money, but they don't want to abide by the rules. So once again, filed in federal court, and we can't advocate on behalf of the position. Number three is to defend public benefits, and that's really goes to the heart of the school conversation with school vouchers. I think this conversation has a long way to go, but until we have support in Congress, I think it's simply put that we have a lot of people seeking privilege who are currently pigging out at the public trough. We need to defend civic reasoning, a cornerstone of democracy. Again, public education is most important, but at the heart of this, number 6, the free conscience of being able to practice your religion for both believers and non-believers is the heart of what drives this position. This is the statement that we need put into, we'll call it the 5th fill in the box on the program planning survey. We're looking to take this position for concurrence, for discussion and concurrence on the floor of the National Convention. Everyone gets confused about this planning survey, and I've learned a lot about the planning process this year. But if you are put onto the agenda by the LWVUS, you're pretty much assured that your position has a fighting chance. If you don't get put onto the agenda, and the agenda is created by the response in the surveys, then you have an uphill battle to try to get your position through. So you can help by supporting us on the survey. I think we're probably mostly all leaguers here. Join the league, support the league, donate to the league. But going back to this statement, this is where we are currently trying to get onto the agenda to move this position to a national position so that we can advocate both on a state and national basis. Okay.
So, Jeff, am I understanding? I missed some of what you said on that last slide, but are you saying that they have not, the National League has not yet chosen to endorse or to support this position being on the National League?
Yeah, the
Um,
agenda for the meeting, Kathy, will be made up upon receipt of all the surveys that come in from individual local leagues.
mhm.
And it's going to be a crowded field this year with immigration. New York is trying to jumpstart the Vermont's universal payer bill from 2 years ago. Um, so I think LWV US looks at the input, not only the number of people who respond regarding a certain topic, but also how I think there's some subjectivity woven in here where LWV US looks at the importance to be able to create priorities, for how the U.S. League will move forward. And I think the question that has to be answered to get on the agenda is this position important enough that the U.S. League would be willing to, take this position into battle, to court, to support positions that do not support these aggressive freedom of religion attempts. Right now, I think we're bare. I think we can talk about individual civil rights, but how do we talk about the monthly faith meeting held at the Museum of the Bible? You know, um, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it seems like this is almost like the tip of the iceberg because there's a lot of other, like we're doing a state study that's not this, but it's sort of like a layer down. And we should have started the study 2 years ago, but there was no national position on freedom, basically from being harassed at libraries. There's
Yeah.
freedom of thought. And so, I mean, it's a, I guess it would be interesting to see, which other states have signed on. And
Yeah. New Mexico has already concurred. I've heard from New Jersey, Ohio, West Virginia, Florida, Alaska. There's a lot of activity, but I think things have kind of settled down as leagues, go into session and discuss what positions that they want to support. I'm pretty optimistic about this. I think it's meaningful, and the problem seems to be getting worse and worse in this administration. So we need to have in our toolbox the words that all of us can vote on and stand behind and say, no, we don't support what this administration is doing with religion.
Jeff,
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see my
yeah.
hand. I'm
Carolyn?
Carolyn
Yeah.
Madden from Washtenaw County, from Michigan. So to segue on what Kathy Jones was just saying, my understanding is that if there's a certain number of, and Sarah Fink is here also from Michigan, if there's a certain number of local leagues that will support this, then it will go on the agenda. Is that not correct?
I
I
think
thought
there's
24 or something of that sort. If you have 24 leagues, then I didn't think it was up to the national to say yay or nay. It's if there are that many people supporting it, at least it's on the agenda. But that just means it's on the agenda. It doesn't mean it's accepted.
right. It just gets on the agenda for discussion. I
Right.
haven't heard that, Carolyn, about a specific number like that.
And it's
But I
not
do,
true.
I do
It's not
think,
true.
what's that?
It's not true.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the person, I'm sorry, I'm lurking in the background and I'm
Okay.
sort of taking a vacation from League for a couple of weeks, but I wish 24 were enough. We had 77 and it didn't get on the agenda.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Wow. I
So
think there's,
the issue for them is member understanding and stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
I
Anyway,
think,
I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you.
thank you. Okay,
but
Barbara, we'll send you a
we're
copy of
gonna
the
be
slide deck here.
absolutely. And as I say, I haven't been helping my group, the healthcare reform group, very much for
Yeah,
these last 3 weeks or so. But I'll come back and I'll help you guys too.
fantastic. Yeah, I would appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think to answer that question, LWVUS, as you all know, have their agenda about woman strength, 6 pillars.
Women
I
defending
forget.
democracy.
Yeah,
Right.
right. I mean, that is one that they're gonna move through, but I think they look for positions that are broad, positions that can be clearly defended in a court of law, particularly when it comes to defending individual civil rights. Um, and I've had very good feedback from LWVUS. In fact, we first started talking to them at the last national meeting about this position. So they're well aware of it. And I think a lot of the decision whether or not to be on the agenda comes from the program planning surveys.
Yes, does it help make democracy work? And
Yeah, yeah,
that's what their
yeah,
goal is to make democracy work.
very much so.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. And I just saw Annette Kaminsky, my friend from many medical travels. Thanks for showing up, Annette.
Hello.
How are
So
you?
yeah, I did bring it up to our good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
So we just had a board meeting the other night or last night, and they want to wait and do a vote at a general meeting next month. But she said the planning surveys, even though you said March 1st, she said they take those all the way till May.
Mhm.
So we've been late in the past, and she said that hasn't been an issue. So we're gonna put it before a general vote on March 21st. And I don't think we won't get it. And
Yeah,
I think everybody will vote, and then we'll add it on our planning survey.
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Other questions?
Do you know where that survey link is? Because I know I saw it and I'm not sure where it is.
Oh, boy, let me see if I can, find this.
I see the 2026. I think I do see it.
Oh, you have it? Okay.
I will drop the link as soon as I confirm what I found.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, many questions have come in. Well, how many positions can I support? And our conversation here in Colorado has been that you can support as many as you want to. You just have 500 words in the fill in the blank to be able to put those in. And that's why we have that succinct statement about I support discussing and adopting by concurrence the Colorado position on religious nationalism. Short and sweet.
And there's a question in the chat. Do you see that? Is it a full state league that needs to support or individual league?
Thanks. Let me open up chat here. Kathy, yes, recorded. We can share the video. Actually, it's both state and local leagues that can vote to concur. You can vote as a local league to endorse or support the position, but you can also vote to concur as it's written. So to vote to support the position would say, yeah, let's discuss this on the floor at the convention. But a concurrence, particularly a concurrence by a state, that's going to carry a lot of weight. So as we move into this discussion, I'm really hoping the next stage after the surveys are in and everything's done, we can focus on getting back to state concurrences again. But Carolyn, it's both actually. Local leagues are submitting all the individual program planning surveys, right? So they would be endorsing.
Yeah, so I just asked this at this, I'm on the state advocacy in Michigan. So I'm still trying to understand this. What the national wants, though, is individual leagues to support the concurrence to be on the agenda. The state, then we can go forward, of course, with these individual ones. I mean, immigration, healthcare, all at a state level. But that has to be voted on then by the state.
Correct.
So that would take a while for us to get that done. Well, we could do that if it doesn't get, for example, on it, but we can't do it now. It's too late to get it, is my understanding, before. So right now, our Washtenaw County, Sarah, you can, we're trying to see if we could support, well, I don't know yet. Sarah and I haven't
Yeah.
talked.
Yeah.
I don't know about,
Well,
I'm going for all three.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's
just-
what we want at the local level. And then if it doesn't pass or doesn't get through, we can pursue it at the state level.
Both are correct. But the chronological look at how this works, local leagues come together this time of year, and the local leagues fill out the survey. Now, prior to filling out the survey, they could say, we as a local league vote to concur or endorse this position. But that's all specific to the program planning survey, right? Now let's push the program planning off the table. For state leagues then to concur on the Colorado position, the state would then have to bring the local leagues together to have a vote
Right.
to concur. Yeah. So concurrence by a local league is fantastic. Concurrence by a state league is powerful. So we had plenty of time for state concurrences, after the program planning process has come to a completion.
You don't think we need to wait till the state convention to have concurrence happen at the state level?
That's one way to do it. Yeah. We chose to have each local league vote. So what's the term? What's the term when we all come together at a state convention and have a vote? There's a
Yeah,
specific.
on concurrence, but that's the state convention, right?
Well, there's another term for it, the process by which the voting takes place.
Consensus?
Yeah, consensus would be a good one. In Colorado, we wrote a separate policy where we thought that positions were moving too slowly through the process. So rather than waiting to have a state meeting and have consensus, we chose to be able to set up a program where we could have local leagues vote. So in the course
Oh, wow.
of yeah, in the
You don't know what that's called? Sarah, you
gosh,
don't know, right?
can't
No.
remember. But the primary impetus behind that was to speed up this process.
Yeah,
so
no, it's a great thing, but I never heard of it.
Yeah, so we could be a little more nimble. Yeah, you'd have to check your state bylaws,
not-
Carolyn,
It's
to
not
see if,
consensus.
what's
Yeah,
that?
I could ask.
Yeah,
If you're doing it by a vote, it is not consensus. I just went through this with the national
okay.
position. So I have a good distinction between votes and consensus is not a vote.
Yeah. I think
you-
really the important part is fill out the survey, get the surveys in. That becomes the core of the planning for the program planning committee. And then the second step is we'll be working to get state concurrences between now and the national convention.
So that's
Okay.
what I'm actually trying to figure out. I thought I found the link for the email or an email for that, but I can't find it.
Yeah. What are you trying to figure out, Kathy?
The state concurrence. I know I saw an email on that, but I can't find it. The state board, but I was where that email came from.
Yeah.
I found the link for the concurrences, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah. That might be a kind of a catch where I think the majority, we'll call it the older method of voting, where we would wait until we go to a state convention and
Yeah,
then we would all come together. That's the traditional way of voting upon this, but it's just too slow. we can't move this.
Well, in the past, we've had the state board concur on things without necessarily going back to the local leagues. That's just been, that's how we've done it in the past. And we're about to have a meeting of the state boards, and
Yeah.
we're going to talk about this. And
Yeah.
I need to reach out to our state president, but hopefully she can find the email that was sent out. I don't know if it was sent from you or from National.
Yeah, I don't think from me. Yeah.
So Kathy,
Concurrence
can I
can
just?
be. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Well, this is just kind of exciting, actually. Kathy, you're saying that your board for Alabama State Board voted on concurrence without going to the individual local leagues.
Right. It's a state league. We are this as the state, as with league being a tri-federated organization, each level can, operates. We don't always go down and build up from the bottom up because we're all doing it. Each organization is a separate entity. You got local working local issues, state works state issues, and the federal, the national works up and out, up at Washington, and on national laws. So, each level can do their own, concurrence. And this is for what he's been talking about with the this position that's going, just like when we go to convention, the state league has its delegates, local leagues have their delegates. And so it's, we don't tell local leagues how to vote. That's on them. And we don't tell our state board members how to delegates, we tell them our positions, but I mean, it's each person is going to endorse it how they feel it's appropriate.
I think it's going to be in your bylaws, your state bylaws about, how you can do that. But I've seen other state boards move forward on a position by just a vote of the state board and not by each of the individual local leagues. So it does seem to be inappropriate. I think from a democratic standpoint, you'd want to try to involve individuals and local leagues as much as possible. Oh, I heard a great quote not too long ago that said, League of Women Voter members are really fun to talk to, but they're really hard to get a hold of. And it's an interesting process, to bring this together. Groups.io is a group that is a part of the planning process that can be found on the U.S. League site for. It's a kind of a chat board for program planning issues. That's another good resource for finding out information about program planning.
Yeah, I guess the thing I would say is when we did the study, the judiciary study, that was by consensus, and it went from bottom, the state had a vote and the locals had a vote, but and all of the state board members are at the local level too. So it's a little bit, it is a little bit cumbersome, but it was by consensus all the way up. But if we did that for every one of these positions that are being brought to convention in order to be voted on, then I don't think we'd ever be able to endorse anything. I mean, our state would take forever because all of our annual meetings and our state meetings are happening after these deadlines.
Right. In Colorado, the Washington immigration concurrence, that was recommended by our JEDI task force. And then it was opened up, but ultimately the voting was done by the state board upon recommendation of the task force. It's confusing.
Wow, this was great though.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to add in something about the health position, which is under privatization. You mentioned, Jeff, the single payer that actually went through in 2022, which is pretty early for me in my involvement in the league. I haven't been a member all that long. So what's on the agenda now is the Vermont a modified version of the privatization position. And it's really about adding healthcare, not just, public health departments and CDC and stuff, but healthcare as individuals access it as a public good, so that we have a way to advocate against the takeover, which is happening right and left by private equity and entities which serve their shareholders and so on, rather
Yeah.
than the public good. So
Yeah.
adding it as a public good, that's what the
Fantastic.
healthcare
We-
privatization, anti-privatization position is about.
Yeah. My wife and I are part of a real small coalition to advocate for single payer in Colorado. And the question went to the ballot last time. It was approved by a statewide vote, but was not funded. And so the Colorado University School of Public Health was willing to do the study, but they said it's going to cost $750,000. And we did it.
Yikes.
We raised the $750,000 so that the statewide study on single payer is being done currently. So there's good things happening. It just takes some ornery folks like us, take it out
Yeah,
there.
well,
and make change.
funding is a big issue because a lot of the money that you'd want to incorporate is federal money. So you have to get these waivers, and I don't know, in Michigan, we have a flat tax, so it's quite challenging. I figured we have to get rid of the flat tax, but we are working on single payer here in Michigan.
Yeah.
I don't see how you get money for doing studies, honestly. I mean, we're doing a study on, it's freedom of ideas in the public space, and there's no funding. We're not providing funding at all. We're doing it just ourselves.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it'll ever go. Maybe it'll be adopted. It'll be adopted complete, but it just seems like you guys must have a lot better access to money than we will ever have.
This was all individual contributions to raise the $750,000.
Yeah. Were they league members or people outside in the community?
Combination. Yeah. The league helped endorse it, but I think there was some big players that chipped in.
And are your studies done with a combination of league and outside groups, or is it just Little League?
This one is separate. The league will have a supporting role, particularly when it comes to public education. But this is the objectivity of the study is very important, and that's why the School of Public Health is going to be doing the study by itself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds really promising.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. Any other questions, guys?
I have a question about, I see you're doing these, more of these. Are you going to be going over the same ground, or is there, so you have one in March,
I think early March sometime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same information. But I'm also open to anytime your organization needs me to come and speak, happy to come and address your organization.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very passionate about this problem because I just believe that once we become entangled with religion, it's going to take forever to become untangled, and we will, but it's just all seems so unnecessary, and you just need to put your foot down and stop it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate y'all showing up. Thank you.
Jeff, can you drop your email in the chat?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank everybody. I appreciate learning about all this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, here, I see it. Religious Freedom app.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, give me a shout if I can be of any help.
Okay. Colorado. I'm slow. All right, I got it.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I sure do appreciate your interest in I think this is a very important time and an important topic. So thanks.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.